Okay, now that you have the methodology and the framework covered, I'm going to show you how you can focus on the first segment and how you can 10x the level of sales and 10x the level of impact in your business in the next 3 to 6 months. So I want you to think for a second the difference between a good client and a bad client that you've worked in the past. A bad client is someone that negotiates you at every point, who doesn't understand the work or value that you're bringing, who's constantly giving you feedback just because he thinks that he knows how a website or marketing campaign is done because he surfs the internet. And most of all, a bad client takes up a lot of your time and energy. Whereas a good client, on the other hand, is someone who appreciates your work, who pays you on time, who pays you the right amount of money, who respects you, who trusts you and gives you a free hand in the process. And a good client just feels good to work with. It fills you with energy and motivation to do more. Now, the problem is that we seldom stop to actually define what kind of clients do we want for our business. We never define basically what are the kind of clients that we'd like to spend more time with versus the people that we don't want to spend time with. So this really is essential for you to understand. It's really the key on how to generate 10 times the sales and impact, which is making sure that you focus on only the kind of clients that you'd love to do business with, the kind of clients that you resonate and click with, because it's down to the law of relevancy, which basically states that people of a similar nature, a similar background, a similar sentiment will naturally tend to click a lot better together. You know, it's nothing down or nothing wrong with those kind of clients, although they're very annoying. It's basically down to the fact that the two of you guys just don't share the same kind of values. And what that will always do is create a toxic mix which will dethrow you from the momentum that you need to actually grow your agency. So rule number 1 is make sure that you're focused on clients that are relevant to you, that you gel with, share similar values, and more importantly, that you form an intimate connection with. Because the secret to actually increasing your sales and impact in a dramatic way is your willingness to intimately know and own your target market, your niche market's needs. And that requires a level of focus, basically. And we've heard about this before. A lot of people talk about how the secret to growth in your agency is all about you finding a relevant niche. But why is it so hard to actually do? Because most people actually haven't thought about who it is that they naturally relate with. They tend to go for the money. Instead, I'm telling you, go for what you resonate with naturally. And you'll find that it's a lot easier basically to scale your business and your sales around that. And why is it so important to niche? Why is it so important to focus? Because if you don't focus, if you don't dedicate yourself to solving one problem for one specific need, then it's impossible for you to develop mastery in a certain area. And if you don't develop mastery, you don't develop an authority in the subject. If you're not willing to focus on one area and get really good until you can replicate the results time and time again, then it's impossible for you to basically develop a position of authority in the marketplace, which means you can't command premium prices, which means you can't scale your business. So it's really important to understand this concept. If you don't have an authority based on one single target market that you have an intimate understanding and knowledge of, which you understand that it's going to take time for you to develop some value and mastery around serving, then it's very hard for you to generate a scalable sales system. So now that you've gained an understanding of what the FFP methodology is really all about, it's all about focusing on the right stage of where you're at in your business. So right now we're going to talk about the first stage, which is all about creating a consistent and reliable sales system, right? And as you probably guessed it, this is all about, making sure that you focus on one particular niche and then applying enough repetition until you perfect your sales and your systems in that particular niche. It's common knowledge, but why is it that it's so difficult actually to get into a niche? A lot of people, maybe you've even tried in the past. I know myself, I've heard this wisdom being spoken about how you have to pick a niche in your agency if you want to scale for a long time now. And I had several attempts in my agency before I eventually gave up. So now that hopefully you've understood the cost of not focusing in a particular niche, now we're going to talk about the major misconceptions around focusing on one target market and niching. You know, if we focus on a particular industry, then eventually we're going to run out of clients. But I'm here to tell you that there are 22 million businesses in the US alone, and there are only 120,000 agencies. That means that there are roughly 183 clients for every one agency. There's a sea of potential clients out there, but what we do and how we practice our business comes from a scarcity mindset, because what we do is we tend to go for the big brands in every sector. Everyone wants to have those trophy brands in their agency, but they don't realize that they're competing in a shark-infested, bloodied ocean of competitors that are looking for the same clients. So, you know, I'm gonna advise you guys to, you know, take the blue ocean approach, which is go out and find a pasture or an ocean where there's no competition, where it's easier to serve your clients, where the requirements are lower, but your level of quality, which comes from your current clients, can actually be considered as the Ferrari of your industry rather than just another cheap car. Because it's all about you creating a positioning where you are unique in that market, where you're not another We2 agency, but the agency of choice. That's how you shift away from being a commodity supplier into a premium authority provider. Another misconception is that creativity is going to stifle our creativity. Our employees are going to get bored, Colin. You know, how can we, you know, maintain our creative juices if all we're doing is focusing on one particular sector? And here again, I think the mentality is completely wrong. I think it's the other way around, actually, because, you know, think of the mindset of a champion athlete in any major sport, right? They have to do the same thing again and again every single day for a period of 20 years throughout their career. But what keeps them going is their imagination, actually, their ability to see every situation as unique and to break it down in little parts and create something far more, you know, impactful and a much bigger performance out of it. So think of it more like a champion, basically, in a sport. You know, if you are limited or if you're focused on one singular objective, then you're going to need massive amounts of creativity in order to get the best possible result in there, in order for you to become a champion or a master in your domain. I think the real question here is that most creatives, most, you know, engineers are really afraid of their full potential, because, you know, committing to a goal that big actually requires for you to get out of your comfort zone on a consistent basis. And I want you to think about Mark Zuckerberg, right? When Mark Zuckerberg first came out with Facebook, his first few interviews that everyone remembers, he was this, you know, shy, sweaty kid in a hood, right? He didn't make the best impression. And fast forward to a few years later, and suddenly Mark, in the congressional hearing talking about Facebook privacy rights, he's wearing a suit, he's well-spoken, he's eloquent, and he commands the attention of the room. Now, what made Mark evolve to this point is his vision. His vision pulled him through and made him get out of his comfort zone, learn new skills like how to deal with, you know, the US Congress, how to do public speaking. And, you know, that's what a vision and a focus will do for you. It'll push you out of your safety zone and into massive growth. The fourth misconception about niching is that you're going to be stuck in a particular industry forever. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions, because, you know, all a niching does is, all a focused marketing strategy does is allows you to provide a stable and predictable source of producing leads and eventually sales. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay there forever, right? Because, you know, eventually you becoming an authority and delivering great results in one sector or industry will start to attract clients from other sectors, and you don't have to turn them down. But I'm telling you from my experience, I would actually turn them down. I would not bother jumping into another category or industry or client until I've completely systemized and automated all my processes for my initial niche. And then I'd go and move and apply the same exact method to another niche. And, you know, if that sounds surprising to you, then what do you think the big agencies do? The big agencies apply the exact same strategy, right? When, you know, the agency started out back in Madison Avenue days, One of them specialized in cars, the other one specialized in tobacco. They got really, really good at that. They got some awards in that, and then they pivoted into other sectors. So it's what the big agencies have been doing all along. So as a summary, I hope you've understood how niching actually is a lot easier to scale your business around. It can produce a predictable and scalable sales system, and that, it's not gonna limit your creativity in any kind of way. In fact, it's gonna challenge you to be more creative than you've ever been before. Now, in this next video, we're gonna talk about the exact steps on how to create an authority sales system. So you're gonna wanna look out for that, and I'll see you in the next video.